This week on the Freelunch podcast, Kanye premieres his new album in the mountains of Wyoming. PushaT unloads in the latest round of his beef with Drake. Kim K talks prison reform with 45. Roseanne 2.0 gets axed. And Jesse Duplantis asks for a new Jesus jet. Tight, let's get to it. Welcome back to the Freelunch podcast, the newest edition. I'm BG the 27 Kid.
I am your boy, Tight.
And we heating up, fam. Hey, you
been
following these NBA finals, though?
Man, what did JR? They said J.R. Smith was playing 21. They say he was playing. They say he was playing 21. They say he thought he had to go back up with the ball. With the ball. What he out here doing?
He had to clear, man. He had to clear.
He had to go back behind it. You know, at 21, you got to go back behind the line.
Yeah, you got to go back behind the line. You can't put it up. Don't beat JR. This week, we cannot beat JR on this podcast. We got to bring that fire. But what you think, man? You think that the Cavaliers going to be able to do it? LeBron going to be able to power up enough to overtake the Warriors?
I actually was impressed with what I saw from the Cavaliers. And they let one get away. It's one of them situations where you had them on the ropes, but you let them get away. Like, you have to take it, especially when you're playing a team like Golden State. They down one man. You got an opportunity to take advantage of a series. Go up 1-0 against the reigning champs, but you decide to do something that was just uncalled for, and LeBron played probably the perfect game. Yeah. It's hard to watch the NBA Finals, though.
They say LeBron gonna have to get about 40 or 50 every night in order for them to even have a chance. And I ain't gonna front now. I was watching the game, and I was also doing some other stuff, and I fell into the same trap that JR did. I thought that they was up 1-2, but I wasn't paying attention.
But you're not on the court.
JR should have been paying attention, especially after a free throw. So I can't fully blame JR because I got caught up, but that was a bad look. So hopefully he'll redeem himself. He gonna have to, because if not, the internet's gonna be on him from now until the 2019 NBA Finals.
I mean, you weren't on the court, so you don't have to know the score at that point. But apparently, JR confused a lot of people with that, because you got announcers both in the Spanish broadcast, ESPN Deportes. He thought they was up by one. You got all the announcers, the radio, ESPN radio announcers, thinking that the Cavaliers must have been up by one, because for him to do that, it kind of confused everybody.
JR was on that Henny. But you say it's been hard to watch. I know you haven't really been watching the playoffs as much as Mo. What's up with that?
It's just not. It's not entertaining. The Stanley Cup Finals is much more entertaining. The Caps are up 2-1. They actually played Saturday night. For those of you that they played against the Las Vegas Knights.
You talking hockey right now?
I'm talking hockey. NHL
hockey. We gonna have to get your black card.
Hey man, I mean, with what's going on, and we'll get to that when we get into the Kanye conversation. But it's hard to be black out here in 2018.
Even when it comes to sports.
even when it comes to sports.
Make a black man not even want to watch basketball.
It's hard to be a black man out here in 2018. We'll talk about it more. So let's get into it when you get a chance.
But before that, though, that Tampa Bay story is pretty interesting, though. I haven't
Tampa
been following
Bay?
it. Yeah, Vegas. I'm glad
Come
you're
on.
coming.
See?
I messed it up. Vegas, one of the newest teams in the NHL. 1 year in, and they already competing for the trophy.
Expansion team, first time in the history of NHL since 1968, which is, if I recall, that's when hockey actually was started. But they basically took a bunch of people that nobody wanted from each team. Each team had to essentially send one player, and these guys came together. They gelled, and essentially they are the biggest sports story for those that follow sports. In my opinion, that's probably the biggest sports story this year, and they should be whenever they do the ESPYs and they start having all these award shows. I would probably foresee that team winning most of the accolades and most of the awards. But it's been very entertaining. Like I said, the Washington Capitals, who I root for, DC team. They are up 2-1 at this point. It's the best 4 out of 7.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can find a way to pull it out. Shout out to Alice Ovechkin.
Okay, Ovechkin, whoever that is. But that hockey is interesting, especially when you see it live. I went to a game in New York at Madison Square Garden, went and watched the Rangers. It's interesting, man. It's a lot of energy as far as the crowd participation, almost like what you see in those in those soccer matches. But I was probably the only black dude in there, though.
Oh, absolutely,
I was a
You
spot.
Oh, absolutely. You're gonna feel a little uncomfortable
For sure.
if you're not used to being around, if you're not used to being the only black person in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a good time.
All right, man. Well, let's get into it. This is we've been talking about music and summertime and how it all goes together. And right now we were or are in the midst of a primetime beat between Pusha T and Drake.
It's over.
Round 3.
It's over.
It's OV? You think it's done?
It's done. Hey, BG. Last week we talked about the Pusha T, Drake, and Drake had just released what was it? Dumpy Freestyle.
Dumpy Freestyle. It was 1-1. We were 2 games in, tied.
It was 1-1. He had just released Dumpy Freestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was raving about that particular freestyle. I thought it was okay. I think you like that one better than Infrared, but yeah. I think that Pusha was essentially doing I think he had lured Drake into something that Drake wasn't ready for. And what was it? Was it the next day or was it 2 days after we released the podcast that he?
It might have been the next day, fam.
But it was early in the week this week. It was early this week, and Pusha came out with that. What was it? The story of how you pronounce it? Adidon. So Pusha came out with the story of Adidon, which is he used the instrumental to the story of OJ by Jay-Z, and the moment that song was released, I sent a text to BG and to the boys, to members of the Flip Phone Society, and I was like, hey, y'all got to check this out. Me personally, I listened to it 2 or 3 times, and my initial reaction was, it was over.
Yeah, you called it a drop the mic moment.
I called it a drop the mic moment. I thought that from that particular freestyle that we use in boxing as a metaphor, it was a potential KO punch, and I felt like Drake was a little droozy, a little woozy.
Woozy plus Drake, droozy. You came up with a new word, and I'm by no means a Drake fan. So even after, after coming into this, I figured that Drake would hold his own, because historically when he gets into these spats with other rappers, he usually perseveres and in most cases ends up on top. So even after the story of Adidon, I was like, okay, well, 24, 48 hours, we're going to get that response. Well, now we looking at 5 days and we still hadn't heard anything from Drake. So
we heard something from him. That he dropped a press release.
He did come out with a press release. Because we got to unpack, though. We got to unpack what this story of Adidon was outside of just the actual song and the verses, but the whole research part that went behind this. Like, in that short span of time, and Pusha probably been loading up on this data for a long time, but he pulled out a lot of stops in this. He talked about Drake's dad, Dennis Graham. Talked about him wearing Steve Harvey suits and running out on Drake's mom. He talked about Drake's mom. How you gonna be a winner when your mama always losing? Then we found out some new information about Drake's love life. We found out that Drake had a relationship with an ex-porn star, and in the midst of that relationship, he had a love child, as they like to call it, Adonis, that nobody really knows about. I think there's been rumors going around about it, but this is the first time that we actually were able to really put some real evidence to Drake having a kid.
But even on top of him talking about those things, I think the one thing that stood out that you haven't mentioned yet was the actual cover to the song,
Right.
with Drake being in blackface, and how that one picture, which posed a lot of questions, really put Drake in the situation that forced him to eventually have to release the press release, which we can get to in a second. But I just wanted to make certain that we captured that piece of the entire story. Personally, I think that for those that watched um, the Pusha T Breakfast Club interview, and he mentioned that he was in Utah for several days with Kanye, finalizing and essentially repackaging and packaging the Daytona, the album that he dropped the 2 weeks ago, or a week ago. I think that I actually think that part of that time spent there was used to critically think and strategize this moment.
Mm.
I felt like the album was ready. I felt like he was looking for a way, from a marketing standpoint, to generate that beef. And so I think that it was very strategic in that he had Infrared be the very last track. That was a jab to essentially pull Drake into the conversation. Um, I felt like he already had the information as far as where he wanted to go with the story. And I'm not surprised at all by the research that was put into this entire thing. I felt like that was something that was done weeks ago. I mean, he's even hinted at he has more, and I think that if Drake had responded to Pusha T, that Pusha had enough information to where over the next few days he would have dropped another diss tape that probably would have potentially been monumental in the assassination of Drizzy Drake, the beef.
Damn, assassination. You got a point there though, because as we talked about last week, Pusha comes out with his album, and I think Drake is soon to release his latest album. So you got a point with the whole marketing thing, because when you look at it, when you look at just the lay of the land and the climate right now, Drake is pretty consistent. He usually has a song or two on the charts. He's always bubbling. You never really lose sight of him. And then he had those two jams on the radio, God's Plan, and the New Orleans thing. What's it called?
Nice for what?
Nice for what? So, you got those two tracks coming, and then he's planning not only his album, but they also talked about him having a new clothing line within the Adidas umbrella. Hence, the name, the Adidon, is supposedly the name of his clothing line, which is a combination of Adidas and his love child's name, Adonis. So the damage that Pusha T has done with this whole sequence of events is not only like savage from an artist going at another artist standpoint, but it's basically going at this man's personal stake, not his family, the people he loved, and his business. It's messing with his money, man. So the question is that, and then people are asking, did Pusha T go too far in his lyrics? He even dropped the line about Drake's in-house producer, OVO 40, who has multiple sclerosis. And he dropped a line of how much time the man got left, tick, tick, tick. That boy is 666. Where do we draw the line in these beats, man? Can we just keep it on wax, or is it okay to start talking about all these personal things?
Well, Drake dropped the fiance and mentioned Pusha's fiance, and at that point the gloves come off. So Drake decided to introduce his Pusha's fiance, and at that point I feel like all is fair. And so again, the question that I think that really needs to be addressed. I mean, he called him the deadbeat dad, and those things were questions that Drake necessarily. I don't think he has to address if he don't want to. But the blackface, him appearing in a picture with the blackface on, he put out a statement. First time in my knowledge in rap beef history that we drop in press release.
Only in 2018, dog. Only in this world of social media and all that it is.
BG, I've been trying to think so many.
Never.
I've been trying to think. I was sitting here thinking, like, trying to compare. What do we compare the dropping a press release to? So me and my boys, we had think about elementary school. You out on the yard and y'all joning, joking, cutting up, going back and forth, and then you say, "Nah, I ain't playing no more, cause you janked on me too hard or something." Like, what's the equivalent of him dropping that press release?
Going to tell the teacher, like
he went
going to tell the teacher, give your explanation of everything that would happen, and try to make the other person the bad guy. You the victim. You gotta play the victim.
So he done went and told the teacher, in the sense that he dropped the press release. No, that's what we in now.
That's it. That's what we at with it. Which was another sign that really was like, okay, this thing done got out of hand now, because Drake is totally out of character. He is out of character for this thing that we call hip hop. We've never seen anything like this before. Yeah, at that point, it was at that moment that I knew shit done went bad.
So at what point? So we need to think about, at what point can we drop a press release? At what point do we need to start thinking about opportunity to drop press releases?
It's a way out. It's a way out when you ain't got nothing. The only other thing that you could do at this point, after somebody has just come at you the way that PushaT came at this man, is to fight. That's really the only thing left to do, is to just meet me somewhere, let's just square up and shoot the fade, because what else you gonna do? The man going after your family, friends, and your money. Like, you got this plan. You saying, I'm planning to come out with this, this June. I'm planning to come out with this in July. I got this laid out, and it's going to set up my album. And then somebody come in and say, okay, this what he planning to do in July, and they telling people in May. That kill your whole thing. That kill your whole fire, man. But that what happened. But in the press,
but can he fight?
If you can't fight, you got to go tell the teacher. You got to do the press release. That's the alternative. But now, he did say in the press release. Now Drake does have some black in him, so it wasn't like this is a white guy doing blackface. And his explanation, summing up that press release, was that, and this was back in 2007, was that he was working with his photographer to basically give like this visual of what it's like to be a black person in the entertainment business, being an actor, and how people only want to use you in these projects under like you being a certain type of stereotype or typecasting. So it's like, if you're not tap dancing, if you're not being this buffoon, then it's that much more difficult to get these roles.
You need, in the words of the gospel column, he need to show the receipts. You just can't put out no press release and ain't got no receipts now. You can't just I can write that and just say I can just say, hey, I was trying to portray the issues, and he could have went to the little. I really like Little Brother, and I was trying to replicate the Little Brother album cover.
That would have been slick. That might have got him out of a little bit of heat.
He gotta come with something. You need to show us some footage of that. Yeah. We need to see some footage of you doing this. We need to hear we need to see the script. We need your homeboy that you just put out there on Front Street. He had nothing to do with that. Now you don't put him on Front Street.
It's a lot of casualties, a lot of people on the sideline, and they just got hit with these shots, man.
Steve Harvey got hit.
People mind their own business, and they wake up the next day and they find themselves tangled up in this mess.
Steve Harvey want to know why he got pulled into the beef. What? Why I got to be a part of?
It's bad. It's bad. Kanye, of course, got pulled in. Kanye, with his connection to Pusha T, it's also said that Kanye lives down the street from Drake in Calabasas, so that's another connection, and the whole Adidas thing. So Kanye has come out and has actually he made a tweet toward the end of last week, basically saying he's never been about beef. I'm about love. Lines were crossed, and it's not good for anyone. So this is dead now. So they're saying that Kanye has spoken, and his words are now putting a period on this beef. This is the end.
I mean, I think that period was put on it when he dropped that press release.
I agree.
I think that period was put on that press release got dropped. So, what then it means, I think that we can, like you just said, that's a period to the beef. Pusha T, I think he KO'd him, and I think it just, to me, I lost a little respect for Drake in that whole. Personally, I lost a little respect from the perspective that for him to bail out the way he bailed out, that was unexpected. You know, I thought he would have called his boy Quentin Miller up and they would have tried to do something.
Drake got 100K out there. He got a bounty for 100K for any information, any stuff we don't know about Pusha T. He trying to dig up dirt. Got 100K. I wish I had some dirt. I'd get that stat. Anyway, but Kanye, it's so good music, man. Like, good music. This whole campaign, like, they really moving. Pusha T came out. Kanye released his latest album over the weekend. So all this time is really working to their favor as far as promo and all that. And if we go back even further, Kanye and what he been doing with TMZ and his sit-down interview with Charlamagne the God, perfect sets up for this album that he released on Friday. And on Thursday, I'm following my social media timelines, and I'm seeing these people talking about Wyoming and Kanye and all of this stuff. And come to find out, Kanye is playing a listening party in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, of all places, in the mountains. This is the place where, when from research, this is the place where he actually recorded this album. But he had everybody, some of your favorite rappers and celebrities and executives in the music business taking planes out to Jackson, Wyoming. Have you had an opportunity to listen to this album yet?
I think I'm probably in the minority when I say this, but yes, we will get to. It was a tweet that was sent out by several of the what I like to call our social justice warriors, denouncing the release of Kanye West and denouncing the release of this album, and the social justice warriors were not for it, and so. I tend to. They boycott, and we'll get to that. I don't want to take away from what we're talking about now. But I listened to the album. In regards to Kanye, I like. I mean, it was again good music has rolling out this new formula. 7 minutes, 7 songs. The songs aren't very long in nature. I think the album is probably about 20, 21 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. And they get straight to the point. There were a few tracks on it that I like. What I did like about the album was it's personal. It's personable. It's where he is today. He didn't shy away from, introducing his daughter and some of the concerns and worries he has about being a dad. I actually felt like the first track was about Jay-Z. I don't know if that's what you got from it, if you listened to it but I felt like he kind of talked about some of that. He even talked about his relationship with his wife, which was actually one of my favorite songs on the track about wouldn't. Let me pull up the actual name of that particular track. But overall, I just felt like it.
Wouldn't leave.
Yeah, wouldn't leave. But overall, I just felt like it was where he was. And where he is today, and that's what I can appreciate about it. And it was to me more therapeutic for him.
Yeah.
He didn't stray away from the comments he said about slavery being a choice. Uh, he kind of started off saying houseway, um,
Mm-hmm.
and then jumped into how slavery was a choice. So overall, collectively, I felt like he was true to himself, and I felt like because of that, I can respect the album. I didn't personally think it was one of his best pieces of work, but at this point, what can we expect from Kanye in regards to music? I think he's even kind of transitioned more into fashion and into real estate.
Yeah, you said the word, and as I listened to it, I've listened to it probably about 3 times at this point, and that's what I got from it too. That this was more of a personal and therapeutic moment for him. It really wasn't. I didn't take that he was maybe talking to inspire people or giving game to make you go out as the listener and do something different with your life. This was just him in his mind getting out whatever his thoughts and emotions were. And so, subjectively, that's kind of what this art thing is about. And what I'm coming to realize, because I haven't really been into Kanye since the early stuff. But what I'm coming to grips with is that, in this art thing, I think we came up at a point where the artists were speaking a certain language and we were conditioning to take what they're saying and then how does it fit my life, or how can I take this verse, how does it speak to me, and how does it change the way that I move? But, as an artist, you're just kind of making what's true to you and hoping, if you're selling it, you're hoping that it connects to people. And so in this art, it don't connect to everybody, and that's okay. Like,
But what we have to do, though, one thing we have to do, it's almost like the debate we have about LeBron James, and that we try to compare LeBron to Michael Jordan. When you're looking at artists, for example, just appreciate who they are.
Yeah.
Appreciate Kanye for what he's bringing to the table. And what I see that's taking place with at this particular point in time is he's shifting with good music. He's shifting how music is being delivered. He's going back to just essentially EPs, just 7 songs. He's trying to change the volume of music that gets put up by an artist, because he feels like people's attention span isn't as long as it used to be. A 7-minute or a 7-minute or a 7-song album is enough. And so let's just see what happens from it. He's changing it from that angle. Yeah. You may not connect with what he's saying, because he's kind of out there at this point. But let's see the effect of what good music is producing over the next few albums, and see how that changes the hip hop game in general.
Yeah,
and not try to compare his most recent work to his best work.
That's a good way to look at it. That's a good way to look at it. And I want to, like that, Kanye, when he went on his press run with those interviews and stuff, like, he said some stuff that I don't agree with, and like I said, there's a part of me that just want to be mad with Kanye, and I want to boycott Kanye too. But logistically, like you're saying, like, I appreciate the 7 songs to be able to get in and get out and listen to it. Even the whole Wyoming thing. Wyoming is in the, is not really one of those stages you say I'm going to Wyoming. But that particular place that Jackson holds seems to be a connecting point of what you would think about a mountain place out in the wilderness, rustic. And then it also has like some luxury hotels and shops and stuff like that. So it's where those two trains of thought merge. And it's like the perfect place to go and just have a album release party where you invite people that the tastemakers and people that are close to you in the industry. So it makes sense. But, Kanye's antics have just gotten so large that it's just like hard to digest all of it.
So here's the deal. I've followed Kanye and studied Kanye for a while now, and I've listened to Kanye. Kanye, the problem that I see Kanye having outside of the personal things that he's going through is he has a delivery problem, a communication and delivery problem. if you really listen and try to read between the lines of what he's really saying,
Yeah.
it's one of those situations where Jay-Z can say the exact same thing that Kanye is saying, but because Jay-Z has way more charisma and he's way more charismatic and his delivery is that much more easier to follow, you can get the message. With what Kanye is, the way he says it and the way he presents it, it's hard to really read between the lines of what he's saying. And so I'm not here to advocate or be or try to speak on Kanye's behalf, but I think that if you really just listen to what he's trying to say, I think he has a message. So I just try to appreciate him for who he is and what he brings to the table. But what bothers me about the Kanye story and the Kanye situation are the social justice warriors, BG. And I kind of alluded to that earlier. And if you don't mind, I would like to shift from the Kanye album to talk about the social justice.
Because we want to get into that. We want to get into that because just a week ago, everybody was like, they were detaching themselves from Kanye. We don't fuck with Kanye. We don't do this. We're not buying no album. We're not listening to it. And then, surprisingly enough, you see how much regard people still have for Kanye to the point of going out here to the middle of nowhere and applauding his work. And even some people turning around and saying, hey, man, this was pretty good stuff. So we do need to get into that. It's like, where are these social justice warriors? Is what they're saying valid? Or are they in turn doing the same thing, that Kanye is kind of doing in reverse? Just kind of, sparking that attention and bringing it to themselves.
Oh, absolutely. And there's one in particular. I actually think I sent that one to you.
You did.
I did, and it comes by way of the great Sean King, who, for those that I really don't know Sean King, you know who he is, but I don't. He's almost like what Burning Man say, you know the N word, but you don't know the N word. So I decided to
research
just so I can know before I get on the show and just start blasting this guy. I'm sure he has good intent, Morehouse graduate. He at one point founded his own church, and then he kind of stepped down from that. Does some great things from the civil rights and being a civil activist community. So I mean, kudos to him. But he put out a tweet the other day in which he basically said, and I'll read it verbatim. To be honest, I don't listen to music from people who love and support Trump and say slavery was a choice. I don't care how fresh a beat is or how raw the lyrics are. When you advance a man that causes literal harm to people, I can't shift my mind to then love your art. And so I started to think, before I even dissect into that, BG, or before we even dissect into that, I just started thinking, man, it's hard to be a black man in 2018.
You gotta pick, man. You gotta always.
You can't listen to Kanye.
Can't go to Starbucks.
Can't go to Starbucks. Can't eat Waffle House. Can't watch NFL. Can't shop on Christmas.
Can't drive down the street.
Can't drive.
It's a lot of can'ts.
What? Can't be racing. What I'm supposed to do? I can't listen to Kanye now.
Can't. You gotta make a decision, man. You gotta make a decision. You gotta make a decision in the midst of a whole lot of can'ts and what you ain't supposed to do. And if you should do them, you ain't black. You ain't down.
You ain't woke if you do it. So now I gotta make a life decision.
Right.
Do I post on social media that I listened to Kanye West's album, knowing that I'm gonna be ridiculed because Sean King done put out a tweet to his 900 plus K followers? Essentially, you can compare it to a dog whistle now. You can compare it to a dog whistle being to his base saying, "Hey, this is not we're not supporting it. We're boycotting Kanye West because of some of the transgressions you feel he's made." And so as a person that just wants to listen to the music to see what it's about, it becomes a point where you got to make a decision. And that bothers me because now we're living, and this goes back to the groupthink idea, because then Twitter has become a platform and a tool for both groups, liberals, extreme liberalists, and extreme conservatives, to now voice their opinion, and now you have to choose and make a decision on where you stand. And I just think that that's unfair to the consumer. And I think that there are bigger issues outside of listening to Kanye West album that we can be addressing as a black community.
Yeah, and we got to be willing to have, like the I guess, and this is a cliche term, the conversations. But you think about your schooling from the time you go and let's just say elementary school all the way to college, and you had these lessons, and you learn about, say, individuals in history class, and then in your literature class you read Shakespeare, and you read all these things. You basically encounter these stories about individuals in conflict. And we learn about the conflict, and we'll have that class, and we'll break down chapter by chapter. Well, what was Shakespeare saying, and what was going on at the time, or what was going on in American history during this period, and this conflict. But then what you're encouraged to do is to understand it, learn it, and become knowledgeable about it, not necessarily making a judgment from that on how you're going to live your life. So 100 years from now, someone will be pulling up Kanye West stuff, and they'll be digging it up, and they'll be analyzing mental health. They'll be analyzing what was going on in the community and the world at the period of time. So with all of that's going on, I think we're having a hard time doing it because it's so much. But just take it for face value and what it is. And if it don't work for you, it don't work for you. But don't become the very thing that you're talking against by trying to impose your will on somebody else, making somebody else feel disenfranchised or lower than because they don't agree with your opinion. Give them the space to make a decision. If they want to listen to Kanye, go ahead, listen to Kanye. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about whatever you get from it. But I'm not going to make you feel worse for deciding.
But what happens? Does that mean that pre Kanye, can I listen to songs made by Kanye pre that statement? So does does college dropout?
Yeah, you can listen to that.
I can listen to that.
Yeah,
I can listen to late registration, but now I can't listen to nothing else from this point forward because he made a comment that we all know was stupid. It's ignorant.
You had to get your black card. We find out you listening to something else from this point forward, we're going to have to get your black card.
And so you get people like, and that's really, if you think about it, I'm telling you now, we should really be concerned when this is the direction that Twitter, and this is the direction that we are going as a society, where again we are moving more into groupthink versus the individual thought process, and it's creating a huge division. We're going to talk about Roseanne here in a minute. Now, by no means, and I'm comparing Sean King's tweet to Roseanne Barr's tweet. So let's get that straight. But what I am comparing is the influence that both have and how both tweets are creating are representative of a large society and a large way of thinking for a group of people.
Yeah. Because if you live in that world, man, it's extremely stressful. And if you buy into it, then you'll be running around judging everybody. And I had to catch myself because I'm like, well, what Chris Rock doing in Wyoming introducing the album? Or what 2 Chainz doing there? But then it's like, okay, these people might have relationships. If you said, well, whatever you had going on, if you say, hey, man, I'm going out here and I'm doing this release party in somewhere, come through. I'm probably going to come through. Even though I don't agree with you 100% of the time, I'm going to come through. So these are relationships. These are people that get paid for going out there and covering this stuff. So in the grander scheme of things, it made sense to be that. It made sense for Kanye because it gave him the buzz to promote this album. He also able to sell merchandise and all that stuff, so it all works in the grander scheme of things. But then it also just shows to me, when I sat down with it, to everybody else, if you're looking for a message or something that you can get from Kanye, is that if you have a conviction about something that you want to do it. Even if you feel like it ain't gonna work or it look crazy or something like that, do it. Because this man put a iPhone picture and scribbled some writing on it and made that his album cover and put that shit out. And he's done the same thing with his shoes. I'm sitting there looking at them shoes ain't gonna fly. And he got them charged for several $100s. People buy the shoes. They buy the clothes. They do all this stuff. So if you got a conviction about something, put it out there. And the people will ultimately decide whether they want it or not. But don't talk yourself out of it.
So here's the plea for me. By no means am I the intellect like Sean King. I'm just sure you have a grander perspective on this whole thing. And maybe I'm just this shallow, and I continue to be this shallow. I'm from 163 DIP. Yeah. I didn't go to Morehouse. So you're welcome to be on the show to tell me why I shouldn't be listening to it. But I'm probably gonna watch the NFL on Sunday.
You can't watch the NFL, man. You can't watch the NFL.
I'm probably gonna watch the NFL on Sunday.
After that anthem policy, you can't watch the NFL no more, man.
I'm probably gonna go to Waffle House on Saturday morning on my way to watch Auburn play.
You gotta do IHOP, dog. Gotta do IHOP.
I might go into Starbucks and get a
what you used to get that? You have to have a drink.
Caramel macchiato made upside down at 180.
Go to McDonald's, dog. Yeah, go to McDonald's now.
Y'all just keep praying and working on me.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do feel like now though that Kanye is more aware of what's going on in the world and in society than what he let off on in that interview. Because at one point he was like, he don't listen to nothing, he don't read nothing, he don't know what's going on. But I'm thinking a little bit differently about that. He had a couple cold lines in there. He don't accept advice from people less successful than him. That was pretty dope. You said something about the House Sway line, and then he said Russell Simmons want to pray for me too. I'm gonna pray for him because he got me too'd.
Yes.
So that was pretty hard. So Kanye did it. Like I said, Chris Rock, 2 Chainz, Nas was in that thing. I had a couple of songs on that I like. I like Yikes, All Mine, and Wouldn't Leave. So 3 out of 7. That's about 40%. 40%.
No, absolutely. So it is what it is.
Who next on the good music? They got somebody else that's gonna be coming out. What? Maybe next month or something. Tiana Taylor should be soon.
Yeah, she's dropping and Nas dropping. They both dropping this month. So it'll be interesting. And it's gonna be 7 songs again, and it'll be a short album.
Yeah, and of course the wifey was there, Kim Kardashian West. She flew out to Wyoming after her visit with the president. Kim K went and met with 45 to talk about prison reform. Who knew Kim K was on top of it enough to go talk about some prison reform?
What she know about prison reform?
She transitioning. She transitioning from a social culture influencer to a politician, maybe a political influencer.
How far down the list was she before they just agreed and decided on having her come to represent prison?
Man,
if I was to envision, we know Meat was asked, but how many people you think on the prison reform list that the president wanted to meet before they just ended up on Kim K because she was affiliated to Kanye?
I don't know the backstory. All I know is when I Google it, there's a picture that comes up of Kim Kardashian in the White House standing behind Donald Trump.
So did he have? So I can only imagine. First he said, "Get Meat Mills on the phone. Can Meat Mill come out here to talk about prison reform?"
He was about to go. He was about to go, but
he said no. Yeah. And then what they say? Get Boosie on the phone. Boosie,
Who
can you
Boosie?
come out here? Lil Boosie.
Yeah,
Lil Boosie, can you come out here and talk to the president about prison reform? No.
They ain't called Lil Boosie, dog.
Get Tip on the phone. Tip, are you available to come out and talk to the 45 of prison reform?
Tip definitely ain't going. He ain't going.
Okay, I met with Floyd in Trump Tower. Floyd, can you come out here and talk about you and 50 come out here and talk about prison reform? No. Okay, so, they said no. DeBrat, are you available, DeBrat, after your show to come out here and talk about prison reform? No. Who can we get? I think we can get Kim Kardashian's available.
Bruh, Kim Kardashian got the number to the she got the main line number. She been advocating for this lady. Her name is Alice Marie Johnson, 63-year-old that has been in prison for 21 years for a drug trafficking charge. And an interesting fact, she is imprisoned in Aliceville, Alabama. That's in West Alabama, Pickens County, the same county that my dad is from. So she's been down there spending a life sentence. And Kim Kardashian became knowledgeable of her case by watching one of those viral videos by Mike or MIC. They always show those videos of different things that's going on in society. So she saw the video and became interested in Miss Johnson's case. And for about a year or so, she has been working with, I guess, various organizations that do this type of thing, advocating for her getting clemency from her life sentence. So through all those channels, last week she ended up going to the White House to speak on Alice Johnson's behalf. And so she had a conversation with the president. Nobody knows exactly what they got into and how in-depth the conversation was. But she was there.
Yeah, this is another issue I have with these whole things, right? First off, I mean, we've already established that I'm not sure how much Kim Kardashian knows about prison and reform that's needed. I mean, obviously, she was one of the few that would agree to go meet with 45. But the second piece of that is, at some point, these transcripts need to start being released. These meeting minutes need to start being released. Exactly what was discussed, because you get these. We get into a point now where they're having these photo ops, but not much is being said around what's the outcome. What are we gonna? What should we? What we working towards? What's on the 45's agenda to reform the prison? Nobody knows. And so how beneficial was the meeting? What did you guys discuss? What's next? I haven't heard anything about what we should take away from the meeting. So, I mean, I don't put a lot of credit on that situation. It was an opportunity for a photo op for President Trump, and then for Kim Kardashian to again give I mean, I'm pretty sure this will be on the show. Her getting prepared and her preparation to go meet the president, and it was another episode for both reality superstars. So I don't have much takeaway from that.
It's all moments in this long promotional run for everything that they do. The only thing that we got back was a tweet from Trump saying a great meeting with Kim Kardashian today. Talked about prison reform and sentencing. And she came back and basically made a tweet saying that the president, she felt like the president understood what she was coming for. So I guess the ultimate outcome would be Ms. Johnson getting clemency and getting out of that life sentence. So we'll see how that goes. Did you know that Jared Kushner was leading like the whole prison reform agenda for the administration? You knew that?
Yeah. I knew he was leading that, and I also knew that Jared Kushner is leading the talks between Israel and was behind a lot of the move to Jerusalem. The embassy moved to Jerusalem. Oh, absolutely. That's Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump are really heavily into that. So you got to realize why Jared Kushner is leading that. You know, his dad is in prison.
Yeah.
And was prosecuted by Chris Christie. And so that's the reason why Governor Chris Christie was not essentially on Trump's transition team, and why he didn't join the White House earlier, because him and Kushner don't get along, and Kushner had the final say in that. And so that's why prison reform, with quotations for those that are not watching, is on his bucket list and one of his responsibilities.
And since Trump has been the president, he has been granting clemency to individuals, but most of these individuals are high profile people who have been tied up in white collar political crimes, and it is being said that he is using his ability to grant clemency and get involved in this capacity as a way of serving personal vendetta. So kind of like you're saying now, when somebody gets in prison for doing something wrong, if they're a close friend of his, he'll vouch for them as a way of getting back at whoever was leading the charge of getting those people in prisons. I think the day after he met with Kim Kardashian, he granted clemency to this dude, Dinesh D'Souza, who was like this conservative commentator that was arrested for some mismanagement, illegal use of political funds, fundraising monies, and stuff like that.
But what the experts say, and again, I follow this stuff daily, is that it's really he's trying to show this. So for those that are or are not following the Russia investigation and Robert Mueller's investigation into collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, Robert Mueller has indicted a few of Trump's former campaign aides, one of those being Manafort, who has pleaded not guilty, but then also Trump's personal lawyer, also known as his fixer, have also been indicted by the New York State, by New York. And so what many other experts think is that him pardoning these people is really as an outward expression to show those individuals that, hey, if you stick by me in the long run, I'll pardon you. So don't plea to don't do a plea deal with Robert Mueller or the New York or the state. Trust me and know that I'll pardon you. So that's what many of the experts believe, and so we'll see how that all plays out. But prison reform.
Shit, Trump doing his thing. He taking full-fledged advantage of his opportunity as the president, taking care of all his homeboys and homegirls. So that's that. And then at the end of it, he could just be in the creek and just saying, Kim K, come on up in here, since Melania, she on the sick and shut in list. So you can't never rule that out.
I ain't getting into it.
And I ain't gonna let up. So but then on the flip side, and I'm gonna finish up. If Kim K is gonna be the new face, then we might as well use her up, send her up in there to talk about everybody. I ain't gonna be satisfied until they free Meech. So we get people out, let's get Meech y'all. Roseanne, dog. Roseanne. We knew this was a bad idea from the start when they first started talking that noise at the beginning of the year about rebooting the Roseanne show, popular show from the late 1980s, early 1990s. The Connors. ABC thought it would be a good idea to bring her back in this post-Trump era and just have a show that really brought out kind of this split that's going on in America between people that are in support of the Trump-like agenda and what conservatives are pushing, and then also having the more liberal progressive view clash within one household. And that show ironically came out with some pretty good numbers. I think it was doing extremely well. I didn't watch any episodes of this new run. I watched a few back in the day. But all reports is that it was doing extremely well.
I think it was considered the highest paid show on ABC. But I'm more shocked, not at, and we'll get into Roseanne's tweets, But I'm more shocked that people are surprised at the numbers. And I'm more shocked that I'm more surprised that people are surprised at the different and the diverse audience groups that was watching the show.
Mm-hmm.
Roseanne connected with a lot of diverse audience groups, not just the group that you think she connected with.
Correct.
There's a lot of black folks watch Roseanne and watch that show. And so even knowing the controversy and the criticism that she could get from that show and from who she was as an individual. So me personally, I didn't watch the show. I wasn't interested in a reboot of Roseanne. Similar to you, I think I might have watched a few episodes growing up as a child, but I wasn't interested in a reboot of the show. But I was more surprised at the number of people that was surprised at her numbers.
Yeah.
And that's not to take away from what you were saying earlier.
No, that's fact though, because you would think that it would just be so polarizing that only one group of people will watch. But from a business standpoint, it made all of the sense in the world for a television network to look at them having a show that could potentially capture this moment in time. It was a perfect play. You see this group, they come out in droves and vote in this election. Okay, we can speak to them, and then we can also capture the people that might be in opposition to them in one pack. Genius. As bad as it kind of seems on the surface from a business standpoint, it made all of the sense in the world. And I'll just go ahead and say now, so I'm not as much disappointed with Roseanne as I am with ABC, the network in itself. Because we see this time and time and again. You know what you're getting, and you know what you're going for. And you say, I'm going to just milk this as much as I can, but at the first sign of me getting this somewhat expected result, then I'm just going to throw the ship away. It's like I didn't have anything to do with it. This was unknown to me. And it's just a lack of loyalty to their purpose and what they're actually do. Stand up for it. You know what you're getting with Roseanne, and you know what you're setting out to do. When she's being Roseanne and she's supporting like who you've known her to be, is that the time to throw her away and be like, this doesn't represent who we are as a network and our mission?
If you're the network, you have to wash your hands of the show. They should not have. They put them, to your point, they did put themselves in that position. We know who she is as an individual. We know what she brings to the table. And with you being affiliated with Disney, that alone should not have even given you the momentum to reboot that show. However, now that you've rebooted that show, perhaps you discipline her. And when I say this, let's be fair. The tweet was embarrassing. It was outrageous. It should have never been said. But to cancel the show, outright cancel the show, that creates. I don't know. I struggle.
It's hypocrisy in my mind. It's being hypocritical to me.
It is. It's very hypocritical. It just speaks to the culture and the climate we're in right now as a society. We're living in a very, very, very challenging time right now. People are exposing themselves even more. ABC did what they thought was best for the network, but I just question them even rebooting that show on that network. You would think that a show like Roseanne and a reboot of that show will be on a different station. I'm not going to call out any other major stations because I don't want to offend any of them, but for ABC to even take a chance on that, I think that they shouldn't even got into that marketplace. But now that you're in the marketplace, to cancel that show, knowing what you was getting into it, I think you're right. It's hypocrisy.
Yeah. they've had a few days to think about it, and they are playing around with the idea of having the Roseanne show continue without Roseanne being in the show. That'll be an interesting fix on how to do that without such an important part.
Really? How they gonna do it? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, that's the latest that they're toying with the idea. I guess because it did so well, and they had actually signed on. I think they had already signed on for a second season. So they got caught in this place of trying to hold to that thing of having that second season, but then your lead character goes off the rails a little bit, and that threw everything off. So maybe they'll figure it out.
You know what I was more surprised at? So there was a tweet that was put out by Wanda Sykes that said I would not be returning to Roseanne on ABC when all of this was going on. I was actually more surprised that she was a contributor to that show.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I didn't. I didn't know that she was a contributor to the show, and I didn't know that ABC's president was an African-American woman.
Oh, I knew that because if you look at the lineup, ABC, and that's the reason why I was more surprised that they were. I mean, they have Blackish, they have Scandal.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They have a lineup like that whole, How to Get Away with Murder and all that stuff. They have a lineup of black actresses and black shows on ABC, and so when she actually was appointed to that position, I believe she was the one that kind of brought Scandal over to that network. So it was a big deal when she got promoted to that position. So I knew that she was in that position. So I knew what she was doing and the contribution she was making to that network, which is why, again, I was surprised that they would reboot a show like Roseanne on that network. And so,
And I guess though that you want to make this space because Blackish, I'm sure in some people's eyes is that show in reverse. It's a controversial show for probably people that are not black. So to them, Blackish would be to us maybe what Roseanne is, and so if you're going to be fair and you're going to have this equal playing field, then you make space for these shows that are, for the most part, directed at a certain demographic or whatnot. So you have to be fair and not censor one group and then just allow another group full play.
But that's not what I was saying. What I was more looking at is the type of shows that are on that network. And it's not about censorship, right? It wasn't about censoring a total audience group. It was more or less about ABC being an affiliate of Disney. And so maybe I'm overthinking it, but they knew what they were signing up for. And so when you sign up for that, you have to, in some ways, you have to live with the consequences.
Since the show has been canceled, Roseanne, she continued her tweets. She very apologetic in her tweets. I think the number got up to her tweeting over 100 times, explaining herself and apologizing, saying that she was not racist. In one tweet, she talked about she was on the Ambien. She was on Ambien. Ambien is a prescription sleep aid. She was under the influence of the Ambien, and the Ambien is what led her to tweet such reckless words. Now, Ambien is very similar in makeup to alcohol, so it's almost like if you take too much or whatnot, you could be very similar to what you would be if you were drunk. But we know what happens when you on that alcohol. When you on that drink, it usually amplifies your truth and what you feel, and it gives you courage to go out and do those things that deep down on the inside you really hold in a high regard. So yeah, it could have been the Ambien, but was the Ambien prompting her to really speak her truth? Either way, it's a bad situation. And the man from Ambien was so savage, though. The CEO of Ambien was saying that racism is not a side effect of our.
That's exactly the point I was going to make. He was like, Ambien ain't got nothing to do with that. It was like racism is not a side effect. So I thought that was interesting.
All these people getting pulled in from the sideline. They just minding their own business. Some shit go down and then they find themselves in the middle of the conflict. It's crazy.
What the social justice warriors say? That's what I want to know.
The Roseanne show should have never been on in the first place.
Social justice warriors. Shout out to all social justice warriors. I when you're dealing with the social justice warrior, BG, if you tweeting 3 to 4 tweets every hour, I can't trust you because you ain't got a job. Twitter.
That's the job. That's
Twitter.
the job.
Exactly.
That's the job. Is keeping people informed, keeping people woke.
Okay.
You gotta stay woke.
Shout out to all the social justice warriors.
Gotta stay woke, player.
What we got next?
Last one, man. Last one.
This is my favorite right here.
All I want for Christmas is a new airplane. Can I get an aeroplane? Can I get an aeroplane?
What we talking about?
Man, we talking about Jesse Duplantis, the televangelist, world-renowned out of Louisiana, made a plea last week. Oh, no, he didn't make a plea. He didn't make the necessary little plea. What he said was on the video that he attached to his website, where that God spoke to him and told him, do you want to come up here where I'm at? and basically spoke to him that he needed to get a new jet, a $54 million jet.
A Falcon 7 next jet.
Yeah.
Top of the line.
Which would be an upgrade from that Falcon 5.0 that he got.
He got 3 jets already. But the Lord spoke to him and told him that he needed to be closer to him and that he said, I want you to bleed for me. A Falcon 7 next. And what bleed means is ask for donations. I want you to bleed for me. And what really got me was when he said, did you see the line when he said that if Jesus was alive, he would be on no donkey, he would be on the jet.
Blasphemy. This is
hey, you know what
This is blasphemy.
Hey, if Jesus was alive, he'll be flying Southwest low fare. 49 one way.
Spirit. He'd be on Spirit. He'd be on the mega bus.
He'll be on the mega bus. He'll be on the mega bus. He'll be on the Greyhound on air, which is Southwest. And he'll be flying the low fare 49. But this joker said that Jesus will be on the Falcon 7 next.
And he told him that. He thought, I need me a new Lord. Then if the Lord going around here telling people what to ask for and what they need, sheesh. The $54 million one.
He said, and the thing that's interesting, we just saw this a few years ago, right?
Yeah, we just saw this.
Then we just see this with a local Atlanta pastor,
Creator Flow of Dollars.
Creflo Dollar say that he said that he needed a $60 million jet, a new jet, and they say what happened with that one was he ended up getting a used. Yeah. He got the same brand, but he got a used one.
Got a used. He figured it out. Now, do the boys have a point? You know, these guys, they travel around the world. They carry their ministries from country to country. They do need, I guess, a reliable means of transportation. So are they wrong for stretching out and saying, I need a new jet of the $54 million?
Well, he got 3 jets already. So the first question I would ask is, why do you need a 4th? See, they got some questions that, at the social justice warriors say, we need some receipts. Now, you got 3 jets already. I need to know why you need a 4th. I need to know who using the jet, how often the jet gonna be used, Where you going? How long you gonna be there? It's a lot of questions that need to be answered. You just can't. You can't bleed for a Falcon 7 next. You can't bleed for it and not answer these questions now.
Now he came back, tight. He came back after he caught so much flack for that statement or for that video. He came back and said that he wasn't necessarily asking for donations. He was putting it out there, and he was going to have faith and believe that he was going to get the jet, and that if anybody wanted to help him get the jet, that he would more than welcome them to help him out in any way that they could.
Well, there's another video with him and Kenneth Copeland. Kenneth Copeland, who also asked for a jet. I think he might even got something from Tyler Perry. But they was talking about why they can't fly on regular airline. Did you see that video?
I didn't see that. What's the reason why they can't fly with everybody else?
There's so much evil energy in that. It's just so much in that tunnel way when you get on the plane. The evil spirits and the demonic spirits just weighs on me. Well, hell, they weigh on me too.
Everybody else then. Are you serious? Is that really a video that's out?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. And they just speaking about why they can't ride on these jets. And so, in the other part, you better do like grandmama do. When you get on there, you better go in there and bless the airplane, and you better bless the energy and start playing and be a prayer warrior. You know, you better be a prayer warrior. But you can't just sit out here and bleed for a Falcon 7 net. I'm bleeding now. Can I make a plea?
Yeah. Plea for us a jet. Shit, why you at?
Can I make a plea right now?
Let's just get up.
To all the listeners.
You leaning in again.
I got to lean in. Sometimes when you lean in, they take you serious. To all the listeners, I'm bleeding. We are bleeding now. We are bleeding for exposure. We are bleeding for the numbers. We are bleeding. Okay. We are bleeding.
We're bleeding.
Look at me. Look at me in my eyes, dude.
Boy, you ignorant. Boy, you stupid.
Hey, we bleeding. We got the platform. We are bleeding. Kanye, Sean King, Kim K. We bleeding for y'all to be on the show for exposure. We are bleeding now. Can you please make that happen?
Boy, you ignorant, boy. You ignorant. You ignorant. But do you you ignorant? And yeah. So, what are the chances? What are the chances of Jesse Duplantis' followers coming together and getting this money up for this $54?
Oh, he's gonna get a $54 million jet.
Yeah, I believe that too.
He's gonna get the $54 million jet, and he's gonna talk about the Lord being faithful. But here's in all due seriousness, when you have ministers, prosperity preachers that are willing to step out and make requests like that, it really bothers me. And it bothers me because I see so many people around us that are struggling, and there's so much more that needs to be done than I understand. You need to go out and you need to minister to the people. There has to be a healthy compromise, especially for you to bless the others. And it has to be a healthy compromise. Huh?
It's a terrible, terrible message, which is very much clear in what you were saying about that interview that they had, where they can't be amongst the everyday people because of evil spirit. I can't fly on the plane because the demonic spirit just overtake me when we walk down the tunnel. So what does that say to the everyday person that can't get in their own private jet, that's got to fly, that's got to move through this world, and that's dealing with them same things? How can, if you're so afraid that you got to pull yourself out of it, how can you really speak to somebody that can't run from it, that's got to be in it? So you don't really have no true experience on what the person that you're speaking to You're not having those like experiences. So what you're saying is you're preaching it, but are you living it?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely. I mean, I can't say that. I take that back. Forgive me, because I don't know these people personally. But to request a $54 million jet is absurd. Even to request a $60 million jet is absurd. Who using the jet? Can we see the list of everybody that's been on the jet? You know, who's been on it? Where have y'all gone? You got 3 of them. Why can't you just upgrade the one you got?
And can the membership use that jet?
Can the membership use it?
Can I, as a member, get up a couple of more members and we charter the jet and say we want to take a trip? Our tithe should be somewhere factored in that membership fund.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. But the simple fact that he had the audacity to ask just shows you where we are as a society. Like I say, I'm gonna make one more plea before we go. I am bleeding. Look at me, America. Final plea. I am bleeding to pay off all my student loans. I got about $20K more in student loans to go. If we can just get some of you willing, able-bodied, willing, loyal listeners to bleed this way. That's what we ask for.
We receive that.
Jesus' name.
Man, let's get out of here, man. Tell the people how they can get in contact with you and follow what you got going on.
Tight_. Follow us. We appreciate you guys listening to us. We appreciate everything you do to keep this going. Enjoy doing this on a weekly basis. Appreciate the Reboot BG getting us going back again and allowing us to state our case. So hopefully y'all will continue to follow us and lean in with us.
That's right. And I'm BG the 27 kid, BG_DA27KID on Instagram. We are the Freelunch Podcast, member of the New South Movement Podcast Network. Check for us, www.newsouthnet.com. Also, check New South Movement on all of your podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, everywhere podcasts are found. We are there. Instagram, Freelunch Podcast. Until next week, y'all bleed for us. We serious about that. We got these loans and this debt we trying to pay off, so y'all bleed for the fellas. But until next week, we out of here. Peace.
We out of here. Peace.